Hi, today's lesson is Saxon Course 2, Lesson 102. And we're going to be talking about transversals and simplifying equations. So the first thing you need to know is what a transversal is. A transversal is a line that intersects one or more other lines in a plane. In this lesson, we will pay particular attention to the angles formed when a transversal intersects a pair of parallel lines. So the purple line with arrows on each end is our transversal, and it's intersected two parallel lines. You will notice that there are 8 angles that are formed. You'll see them 1 through 8. In this figure, there are 4 acute angles. They're all smaller than 90 degrees. Those are angles 2, 3, 6, and 7. And we also have 4 obtuse angles, which are 1, 4, 5, and 8. All of the acute angles have the same measurement. They're all the same. Isn't that nice? And then all the obtuse angles also have the same. And when you add the acute and the obtuse angles together, they equal 180 degrees. Transversals are great and very easy to figure out what your missing measurement is. So here I have transversal T. So transversal T is this line right here that I just marked in purple. Okay, and it intersects parallel lines L and N. And it tells us that the measurement of angle A is 105 degrees. So right here is 105 degrees. And it wants to know the measurements of angles B through H. Well, B is right next to it and is going to make a supplementary, or it's supplementary to A. So I have to know what 180 minus 105 is to tell me what B is. So B is 75 degrees. Well, we just learned that all of these acute angles are the same. So if I want to know C, it's also 75 degrees. Now I want to know D. Well, remember we learned that all the obtuse angles are also the same. So they already told us it's 105 degrees. All right, E is one of the acute angles, so it's 75 degrees. F is one of the obtuse angles, which is 105 degrees. G is also obtuse, so it's 105 degrees. And H, did I do that backwards? I sure did. F and G are not the obtuse, they are the acute. They're 75 degrees. And H is obtuse, which is 105 degrees. So you have to be careful not to lose your place. But if you're careful, then you will be able to find the correct measurements of each angle. You need to know that angles are corresponding when you have a transversal going through two parallel lines. Corresponding mean that they're in basically the same place, just on a different part of the line. So if I were to separate my line like this, you would see that A and E are basically in the same spot, okay, the same place on the transversal. They're still next to the transversal, but they're next to a different parallel line. All right, so what other corresponding angles do you see? Go ahead and the video is going to stop, and I want you to identify them. All right, so you should have seen that B and F are corresponding, C and G are corresponding, and D and H are corresponding. So you should know that all corresponding angles are equivalent. They're equal. They're the same number of degrees. We also need to know what alternate exterior angles are. Exterior means on the outside. So outside of our parallel lines. So the outside of our parallel lines are going to be our A and B and H and G. And if it's alternate, it's going to be on the other side of the line, but still on the outside of those parallel lines. So what would my other pair of alternate exterior angles be? Good. You should have said angles B and G. Okay, so they're alternate and they're exterior on the outside. All right. So then we also have alternate interior angles. So interior is inside. We're now on the inside of the parallel lines. So my alternate, it tells us, is D and E. That means they're on the opposite side of the transversal, but they're inside the parallel lines. Or in this case, I drew a box there so you could see it. They're inside the box, which is inside the parallel lines. So what's another pair of alternate interior angles? Good, you should have told me that they are C and F. All right, so now I've given you a transversal that intersects two parallel lines. The transversal is called R, and the parallel lines are P and Q. And we've made 8 new angles with this figure. The first thing you're going to do is name 4 pairs of corresponding angles. All right, let's see what you put. So you should have told me that 1 and 5 are corresponding. So angles 1 and 5. You also should have told me that 2 and 6 are corresponding. And you should have told me that 4 and 8 are corresponding. And last but not least, we have 3 and 7 are corresponding. So these are your 4 pairs of corresponding angles. All right, take a minute, and your next thing I want you to find is 2 pairs of alternate exterior angles. And if you've forgotten what those are, take a look at your notes. And if you forgot to write down notes, go back in the video, write down notes, and then come back to this one. All right, so we remember that exterior is on the outside of the parallel line, so I'm just going to draw a box around my interior so I know not to use those ones. And my alternate exterior angles are going to be 1 and 7. So angles 1 and 7. Oops, angle 7. And I'm also going to have angles 2 and 8. All right, so now you know the alternate exterior angles. Next, I want you to identify 2 pairs of alternate interior angles. Again, check your notes if you've forgotten what this means so that you can solve this. All right, so you remember that the interior angles are inside the box, and we want alternate interior angles, so they're going to be on opposite sides of our transversal. So you should have had angles 4 and 6 and angles 3 and 5. Those are your interior angles. How'd you do? Good job. All right, let's try another one. Oh, let's write a few more notes. Excuse me. So there's some things you need to know. Oh, that's all you need to know about angles. We will do a little bit more practice. That should give you a good idea. It really is just a matter of remembering what your vocabulary means. So make sure that you are going back and checking your notes when you solve these so that you're choosing the correct ones. All right, so I told you we're going to learn about transversals, and we're also going to be learning about simplifying equations. So this is kind of going to a different realm than angles. We're going to talk about simplifying equations. Now, I want you to write these notes in your notebook because it's important to know these things. First, when solving some equations, we must simplify them first, then we can solve them. So we have to simplify first. To simplify, we're going to start by collecting like terms. So whenever we have like 1x plus 2x, we're going to bring them together and make 3x, okay? Or if we have 2y minus 1y or just y, we'd end up with just y, 2y minus 1y is 1y, and we can write that as y. So we're going to collect those like terms so that we can solve the problem. Another thing you might have to do, and we're going to do this a couple problems in, we're going to have to move the variables all to one side. We can't have them on opposite sides because we want to isolate our variable, and if they're on different sides of the equal sign, it just simply doesn't work. Alright, so I hope you paused the video so that you could write this down, and we're going to give it a try. I'm going to give you an example first. So it says simplify, then solve this equation. So I'm going to rewrite the problem 3x plus 5 minus x equals 17 plus x minus x. So I've got all kinds of x's here, don't I? And that's 1x, that's 1x, and 1x. So 3x minus 1x is 2x plus, we got to keep our 5, equals 17. And then 1x minus 1x is 0, so I could write plus 0, but it's not necessary. Then we're just going to solve. We know how to solve these, right? We want to isolate our x, so we're going to start by subtracting 5 from both sides, which is going to leave us with 2x. That cancels itself out, and 17 minus 5 is 12. Last but not least, I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and then x equals 6. Okay, make sure you write this in your notes so that you can see what you did, because you might want to refer to your notes when you're solving the next problem. All right, so now it's your turn. Go ahead. You're going to collect like terms, and then you're going to solve the problem. All right, let's see how you did. So I've got W and W here. So 3W plus 1W is 4W. And then we're just going to write minus 10 equals 90. Then I need to get rid of the 10 from this side so I can isolate that W. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides. That cancels it out. So I end up with 4W equals 90 plus 10, which is 100. Then I have to divide both sides by 4. That cancels that out, and then W equals 25. So my final answer is 25. All right, try another one. All right, let's see how you did. So I've got an x, 1x, and another 1x, and 2x. So 1 plus 1 plus 2 is 4x. Then I have 10 minus 10, which is 0, so I don't have to write that. I could write plus 0, but I don't need to. So 4x equals 180. Then you should have divided both sides by 4, and then x is 180 divided by 4. 4 will go into 18 4 times, and then I end up with 20. 4 will go into 25 times, so that gives me a 0 remainder, so I'm done. So x equals 45. How'd you do? Good. All right. So our next one. All right, so this was just a little bit different. Remember how I said sometimes we're going to have to get the variable on both, or on just one side? And you'll notice on this one that I have x on both sides. I have 5x on one side of the equal sign, and I have 2x on the other side of the equal sign. And we just can't have that. So I have 5x minus 17 equals 2x minus 5. I need to get this 2x over to that side of the equal sign. And it's a positive 2x because there wasn't a symbol. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to subtract 2x. So that gives us 5x minus 2x minus 17 equals negative 5. Now we're going to combine our like terms. So 5x minus 2x is 3x. Then we have minus 17 equals negative 5. Then I need to get 17 off of the left side. So I'm going to add 17 to both sides. So, because again, I want to eventually isolate that x, right? I need it just on one side all by itself. So that cancels that out and leaves 3x there. And then 17 plus negative 5, or negative 5 plus 17, is going to give me a positive 12. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. That cancels that out, and x equals 4 is my final answer. Now, I hope that you wrote this down in your notebook so that you can look back to just check to make sure you're doing it right on the next one. If you didn't, go ahead and rewind the video and copy it down so that you know what you're doing step by step. It is important that you show every step when you're solving these problems. Remember, when I'm grading your homework, if you're not showing all the steps, I'm not giving you credit for the problems. So it's vital that you're showing me that. All right, try this one on your own. Notice that you have 3y on the left side of the equal sign and 1y on the right side, and you need to combine those. All right, let's see how you did. So I'm going to rewrite it bigger because that's easier for me to see. And I want to get 1y off of this side, and I have to do the opposite, which means I'm going to subtract it from this side too. So 3 minus 1y minus 1y is 2y plus 5. And I left negative 25 on this side because that canceled out. And so I now have 2y plus 5 equals negative 25. Now I got to work on totally isolating that y. So I'm going to start by subtracting 5 from both sides. That cancels that out and leaves me with 2y. Negative 25 minus 5 is negative 30. And then I'm still working on isolating the y, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. That cancels that out and isolates my y, and then negative 30 divided by 2 is negative 15. So y equals negative 15 is my final answer. All right, try this one on your own. See how you do. All right, again, I want to write it bigger so that I can see it and manipulate it. So I have 4n on the left side and 2n on the right side, and I want to combine them. And so I'm going to subtract 2n from both sides. So that cancels that out, and then 4n minus 2n is 2n, and I still have my minus 5 equals positive 3, so I'm just going to write 3. Now I'm still working on isolating the n, so I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So that's going to give me 2n, that cancels out, equals 3 plus 5, which is 8. I want to isolate the n, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. That cancels out, and n equals 4. That's my final answer. All right, this one's a little bit different, but not a whole lot. This is now bringing in your skills using the distributive property. So you see how you have 2 times x minus 4? We have to distribute that 2 before we can solve the problem. So I'm going to write the whole problem, and remember, you're writing this in your notes so that you can look back at it for hints and helps on each step. So I need to distribute the 2 to the x and to the negative 4. So then I'm going to leave 3x alone, and then 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, and then that equals 32. Now I have to combine my x's, so 3x plus 2x is 5x minus 8 equals 32. Now I'm trying to isolate that x. I can solve my problem. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. That cancels out. 5x equals 32 plus 8, which is 40. Again, isolating that x, so I'm dividing by 5. And that cancels that out and leaves x all by itself. And then 40 divided by 5 is 8. So we have a few more steps, but we knew how to do each of the steps. We just needed to slow down and apply what we knew to our math problem. Once we did that, it really wasn't as hard as it looks. All right, your turn to try. Go ahead and try it and see how you do. All right. So again, I like to write it in my own handwriting, and you should be doing the same. And I have to distribute my 2 to the x and the negative 4. So I'm going to rewrite 3x minus 2 times x is 2x, and then I'm going to do 2 times negative 4, which is negative 8, equals 32. Then I'm going to combine my x's. 3x minus 2x is 1x, or just x, minus 8 equals 32. Then I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So I end up with x equals 40. So x equals 40 is my final answer. All right, one more and give it a try. All right, let's see how you did. So I have 3x equals 2 times x minus 4. I'm going to have to distribute my 2 to the x and the negative 4. So 3x equals 2x minus 8. Now I have x's on opposite sides. So this is a positive 2x, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. 3x minus 2x is just x, or 1x, or just x. That cancels out. X equals negative 8. I expect to see all your steps, so make sure you're showing me that when you do your homework. That is all there is to this lesson. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to rewind and watch again. If you don't like the score you got on this, please ask me to reset it. I'm happy to do it. Every single person that's asked me, I've gone right out as fast as I could and got it reset for them so that they can retake it and get a better grade. I hope you have a great day, and I hope that it was kind of fun for you to learn these 2 new concepts today. Thanks.